Welcome to Talk Tennis. Today, Dennis Fabian, you're here with me. Tell everyone where we are.
We are right now here in the middle of the epicenter of the stringing room, basically. Like right behind us, a couple of guys grinding and working on rackets. A total of 12 stringers again this year, and a hell lot of work for these guys, yeah.
At the BNP Paribas Open
Yes,
in Indian
correct,
Wells, California.
correct, yes.
I don't know, this might be a first, hopefully, maybe, the first podcast recorded in a stringing room. There's probably been others.
Maybe, but I don't know. But like,
But this will be the
let's
best.
pretend we are the first and the best.
Best. We're making history here. Okay. So before we get into like deep, heavy questions, what have you been up to this week? And give us a little bit of an insight on what it's like to be in here.
Yeah. So I basically arrived a week ago, like prior to the tournament. The team here usually sets up the stringing room a couple weeks before everything starts. So then we come here, the team arrives, first rackets come in, so they start here obviously. We kind of like set the rules within the team, which knots are going to be used, which techniques are, what do we don't want to see and all this. We got like team leaders with Julian Lee, with Nick, and like, so we got all these people here working hard. We pretty much have the same team together this year. One person from Germany is over since international travel is luckily possible again. And myself, like, yeah, there's a lot I have to do during these times here. We have meetings, obviously, with your team, for example. We do photo shootings with our players. This time I even needed to hit some balls with a couple of the guys and girls. Well, I don't know how much fun it was for them than it was for me, but like it was kind of like, but I realized how old I got by the time.
Who'd you hit with?
Sinner, Berrettini, Zverev, Rublev, Coco.
What?
Who else? And Musetti, actually.
Nice.
So yeah, it was kind of fun. And then yeah, we got like projects like we do together with you, like the podcast. Tomorrow the Instagram live we're gonna do, and so there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, and we're like literally in the stringing room, and like Alcaraz and team just walked in.
Yeah.
Do you get starstruck by anyone, or are you pretty chill?
No, I'm pretty chill. Like I respect what they do on court, and absolutely like it's tremendous. Just the names you mentioned, the players that we have under contract with Novak, with all these. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what they do on a tennis court. Here we try to like treat them as normal people, and I think that's what they also appreciate.
Yeah.
And for the stringers, for example, there are also rules like nobody is asking for an autograph or picture or anything unless we really know the player or like we kind of prepared it up front. But me personally, like I'm pretty chilled about it, and I think they appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Especially with the crowds out there, they're constantly getting yelled at.
Yes.
So it's probably somewhere they can relax
Yes.
and just get their equipment dialed in.
Yes.
Speaking of dialing in equipment, what kind of trends are you seeing? Anything specifically this week, maybe based on the weather, and also overall this year with the players? Have you seen anything new?
Yeah, I mean, like overall, it has been pretty cold. I mean, people might have heard about the cold front that was like running through Cali, and definitely the first couple of days were really cold, and especially once the sun goes down, like within like 5 minutes it gets nearly freezing cold. Like, and that obviously has a lot of influence on the court, on the ball, and obviously what the string does or what the racket does.
Yeah.
So you saw a little bit ups and downs and tensions and players trying to dial in and all of this. The overall trend is that players are dropping off more and more rackets because everyone feels the benefit of playing with freshly strung rackets, changing them more often during even practice sessions and matches, obviously. The overall quality of all stringing services globally, and I think every single brand that is in charge of stringing services is making sure that the quality of the stringers is on the highest possible level.
Right.
And I think that benefits the entire game of tennis overall and also the players. With courts, I mean, people hear it everywhere and read it everywhere. The courts partly get slower, or if they are just freshly painted, especially on the hard courts, they get a little bit rougher.
Yeah.
The felt works different than with a rougher surface. So to generate the power or the spin, like it's better to have freshly strung rackets. So, yeah.
For sure. And has there been any extreme demands from any players? You don't have to say who, but any weird stories?
No, I would love to tell some fancy stories, but like you got your typical guys or ladies that are coming in with 4 rackets and tell you that they are practicing in 30 minutes, and if all the rackets can be ready. And
Nice.
so that's a stretch to some extent. But no, like in terms of tension, actually, those totally crazy things are not necessarily happening anymore.
Pretty middle of the road.
Yeah. So it's all dialed in between 48 and 55 pounds somehow, like nearly 85-90% are up there.
Yeah, and
pretty
what
much.
about hybrids? I know I'm trying to make the poly hybrid thing happen, but what about like a multi and a natural gut hybrid?
Yeah.
It seems like that seems to continue to trend
Yes.
up.
I don't know if it's trending up, but like it's definitely existing and a lot
Yeah.
of players are using it.
Okay.
I mean, with the natural gut, either in the mains or cross, you get that extra feel, you get that little bit of extra pop that some players really want. But yeah, it's there and it will continue to be there.
Yeah.
Again, for regular, let's say club level players, if they are not constantly restringing, me personally, I'm not a huge fan of giving this out because of the deformation of the racket and
Right.
stuff.
That makes sense. Okay, let's talk a little bit more specifically about head strings.
Yeah.
Which pros right now are using head strings specifically that you, off the top of your head, can think of?
We obviously have Sasha Zverev using
Yes.
Hawk Touch with natural gut. He is one of those hybrid guys. We have Taylor Fritz using Hawk, also with natural gut, one of those hybrid guys. We got Emil Russowori, who's using our new Hawk Power String. We got Geoffrey Blancano, who's using the Hawk Power String. We got a lot of players, and I guess we're going to talk about this a little bit later, testing Hawk Power right now because we finally have like the product fully available after our seeding at the US Open to a lot of players. Lynx Tour, Hawk Touch are kind of the most popular ones right
Okay.
now amongst the head players. So I could keep going with the list, but I think that's kind of boring.
We'll be
at this
bored. Okay. Well, let's talk about Hawk Power then.
Yes.
Chris and I got to test it extensively. I remember at one point, I think every racket in my bag had Hawk Power in it, which like meant it was strung in like many different rackets, from head rackets to my personal rackets to other rackets I was testing. So it was really cool to hit it in everything. And I really enjoyed it. So maybe you can just start us off with what was the need to add this Hawk Power into the lineup and how did it all come about?
Okay, so how far should I go
Go
back?
back,
with
go
that?
like,
Okay,
yeah, well, and maybe.
How much time did we have? What did you say?
Right? That's the other thing. Sorry, I'm gonna say one more thing. We don't see strings turn over the way we see rackets and shoes turn over. You know, like strings don't get updated every 2 to 3 years. So it's not as often that we see new strings into the lineup, but we've seen some really fun strings come out of heads lineup in the last couple of years. And you guys keep giving us these awesome things. So
Yeah,
go back and start us from the beginning.
overall, we always have the approach, the same as our athletes. Like we always want to become better, and we challenge ourselves to become better, to
Yeah.
like come to the next level, to adopt to the game style that is happening, to the circumstances, the rackets, the string patterns that partly change, and all of this.
Yeah.
But every single string should make sense to some extent. And I know you probably will now get a list of comments why certain strings don't make sense. And it's a
why'd
lot
you
of
discontinue this
correct,
one?
correct. And obviously there are sometimes business decisions. There are sometimes even raw material decisions.
Yeah.
So some decisions are tougher than others to make it work. So within the Hawk lineup, which is our premium premium price point and also like our premium kind of string where a lot goes into, we thought that we are missing something. There is something lacking in the portfolio. I think we cover the control part with Hawk very, very well. It's a string that's more on the stiffer side. With Hawk Touch, we have a nice alternative for people who don't like that, like kind of too stiff of a string, still want a lot of control, but a good feel out of a monofilament. So Hawk Touch is up there, but we didn't have something that we believed at least delivers that perceived power feel, that like the pocketing and that the ball goes out of the string bed and you get the sense or the sensation that you generate extra power with that string without losing that control. That always sounds like a miracle.
Yeah.
But you obviously also have that, like how the ball is curved, like the trajectory of the ball. And so what I was looking into with the team, how to make this work, whether we use our existing factories that we are working with around the world, or if we are looking into something completely new.
Okay.
And I always liked the idea to like produce a monofilament string in the biggest tennis market in the world. So we were out there looking for partners and stuff, and that's how we got to know this team close to Nashville, in Tennessee, right? Yeah. And we met and we caught up. We explained what we wanted to do, and they said, "Yep, we are able to do this. We are confident that we can deliver this." So that was in 2019.
Wow.
When we started this. So that's where Hawk Power kicked off. So as you can imagine, the engineers get their heads together, and that's where I come into play. I need to connect the engineers in the factory facilities and our engineers. And my job is to try to explain and describe what I want from a playability standpoint.
Right.
And this is not coming from me, but like with a lot of feedback, listening to players, watching tennis, being in stringing rooms, talking to the stringers, and seeing also what the competition is doing. So that's what I tried. And where I put a lot of emphasis on is, when I say I it's always the team, kind of. It sounds weird, and I feel bad to say that. But it's sound to me plays a tremendous role playing tennis.
Agreed.
And the contact point between the ball and the racket is the string. So obviously it has a lot of influence how you even perceive how you hit the ball. So whether you got this super pingy or like a dial down or a damped sound. So that was crucial to me, that this string would deliver to the players who don't like to play with dampeners, but at the same time also to the players that like to play with dampeners, so they can make their own choice and are not forced to do either or. So there went a lot of engineering into this part. So we got this dialed in, and obviously different rackets, different string patterns. We tested all of this. And yeah, that's how Hawk Power came to fruition. And after, I don't know, probably 35 different kind of prototypes, QC testing, string testing, and we hope we made it. And like the feedback we are getting is really, really good on the string. It's hitting the market now. I think you guys have it available on your website finally.
Finally, I know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some insights here for our listeners is the hurricane in Florida end of last year hit the facility that does all the coiling and packaging. So we lost more than 20,000 sets during that hurricane. And that is the issue why, like, a lot of people are texting me as well, like, Dennis, why is there like issues and this is bad? And it was a force of nature. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
So
I know.
everything needs to be reproduced. Like you can imagine, it takes time. So we are over that hump now. The string will be available, is available in the US now.
Currently
will be
available
in Europe pretty shortly. And then, yeah, we are off to the races and hopefully hit a home run here.
Yes. Well,
please.
please love it. You hit on a word that I kept using throughout the playtest, which was pocketing. For me, we kind of were talking about this off camera, that I like things that feel like a board, but I like the feel of a pocketing string without it being launchy, which is, there's a fine line. And Hawk Power actually like pockets the ball, and I still feel like I know where the ball's going off the string bed, instead where some strings get very like, they pocket in and then they just launch out, and you just feel like it's, I call it mushy sometimes. So you definitely, in my opinion, hit on that. And even like Chris is playing with it in an 18 by 20, and I'm playing it 16 by 19. We both had a very similar experience. He's stringing down low, I'm stringing up high. So tell me what kind of player this is good, well suited for. Like, who should be trying out Hawk Power? Everyone should be trying out Hawk Power, but who?
So with the description you just put out, is like, it's obviously for a variety of players, right? So it's not really like a niche string, which sometimes happens if you go too stiff or too soft with strings, that it's very niche and very specific. So with that string, we wanted something in the Hawk lineup that talks to a broad audience. But at the same time, we need to be honest to ourselves, it is targeted and tailored more towards the ambitious, like performance, high-performing player with a good technique.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that other players are not allowed to try or test it, or that it would cause injuries. But the person or the players we targeted to are players like you, like Chris, or like tour level players, ITF juniors, like the better performing players with good educated techniques.
Nice.
But what you mentioned is like something that was definitely a goal in the development, is that what you absolutely described correct was the pocketing without the string. Like you sometimes have strings, you hit the ball and it goes right or left, or you don't know like what's happening and all this. And definitely Hawk Power delivers that.
Yeah.
You know where it's going.
Yeah, you feel connected to the ball. And did you have any pros test it or help you out with feedback along the way?
Yes, absolutely. That's what we always try to make sure, like as best as we can, because it's sometimes difficult. These guys and girls, they have such a tight schedule, and the racket and the string setup is basically what they like make their money with at the end. It's their tool to do a good job. So sometimes there are players that are more open to help out. There are some less, but yes, we had like a bunch of players that actually helped, tested it, played it, mainly also because of durability, because they generate a head speed of the racket that's, let's say, somebody.
Yeah, I'm not a
like,
string breaker.
Yeah, we have a couple people that were former pro players in our office in Austria, and they are still young, so they are able to generate this head speed as well, but you still want to get like people in Florida or in California or in Japan to test it, different circumstances, courts, everything. So
Nice. And I love the color. I think it's super unique. How did the color come about?
yeah, it was an accident.
Perfect.
It happened by accident. So it's actually a pretty funny story. So like, as I said, 2019, it was actually happening during the Indian Wells tournament. We arranged that I'm going to meet the team in Nashville at the factory. They showed me the production line, everything. And I walked through the halls and everything, and there were spools of strings. And they were like, yeah, don't look at this. We're going to throw this away. There was like, something happened and it doesn't work. I'm like, but the color, I love the color. And they were like, oh, no, please don't.
Look at this.
Please don't. I said, like, why? What's the issue? Because, like, if we do a string together, like, this should be the color because that's different. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So they said, like, yeah, but we just told you it's an accident. So, like, they didn't know how to duplicate the color again. So that took a couple months. We figured it out with designers even being involved, looking at Pantone codes and like doing extrusions that we got close to this accidental color. And yeah, I'm super happy with how it turned out. Like it's a beautiful full color. In the tent here, we had a couple sets. We were stringing the new Gravity racket on the machine in your tent. And people stopped, and they actually just bought the string because of the color, which hasn't happened that often with us at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, people love it.
That's awesome. And tell me about the uniqueness about having it made in the U.S. I don't know if our listeners realize that there's not a whole lot of strings being made in the United States.
No, there aren't. And I think for me it was with... Everyone is talking about environmental friendly parts, and like there is packaging, there is the production, and obviously the US is the biggest tennis market, and it's a huge string market. It's the most tennis players in the world playing here tennis in this market, and we wanted to shorten like delivery times to our warehouse, which also at the same time, and I'm not the super expert, and I don't want to make like a huge marketing story out of it, but like it probably helps to reduce the carbon footprint somehow, because there are no planes involved with this string. There are no vessels involved that are driving around, at least for the US market where we sell most of our strings. So that definitely was kind of an idea behind it as well. And then we wanted something where factories might have access to, or they have access to different material compositions, different impact modifiers, chemical stuff. So we wanted to open our horizon of what's out there. What can we do? Like maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but like if you don't challenge it, you will never find out.
Yeah.
So that's why. Like that's why we were looking into a facility here and a partner here. Yeah. And again, I'm pretty happy with the outcome.
I think it's cool and unique. And then there's a lot of people looking for made in US, and you now have that. If you feel comfortable, what strings would you put it up against in the market?
That's the most loved question and the most hated question at the same time.
You don't have to answer.
No, it's fine. But like it's always, like I'm just already thinking about the comments that might be coming, like how can he compare this string to this one? That's not true. If you do this,
it doesn't even compare. It's unique in its own way.
I mean, on this premium level, there are only a few strings out there that are like big in the game, right? Let's be honest. So we are talking about an Alu Power. We are talking about 4G. We can mention RPM, but it's different to 4G and Alu Power. So obviously we want to have a string that is in that spot, but it has its own identity. So that string wasn't necessarily tailored to like go for one specific competitor. We wanted something that has something unique, something that HEAD stands for, that what we care about. And again, I think we did well. We're already thinking about the next one, and that's how it goes, that's how we work, that's how we roll. So
awesome. So if a consumer is stuck between something like Hawk Power and Lynx Touch, can you explain the differences and what they might be looking for in each one?
First of all, like Lynx Touch is a different construction. It's basically two monofilaments in one, right? Like, so you have a softer core and a stiffer outer. So it's kind of a hybrid in itself. Lynx Touch was, the idea behind that string is there are players out there, they should be playing multifilament from like arm friendliness, comfort level and everything. But if they play those multifilaments, they like lack spin potential, and they lack a certain feel that monofilaments deliver against a multifilament that players might prefer. So we thought, okay, can we create a string that delivers on that premise? More, again, multifilament player moving into monofilament to get a little bit additional snapback potential and stuff. So that's more the Lynx Touch consumer.
Okay.
Also like juniors that like need a little bit extra control that they start losing with like the multifilament, but also they need some more durability because they can't afford to restring that often. That's where Lynx Touch comes really into play.
Okay.
While Hawk Power, like the pocketing might be similar to some extent, but it delivers really for that faster head speed.
Okay.
Player, the control, more advanced.
Awesome.
So I hope that gives a good.
No, that's great. That makes a ton of sense. And as I mentioned earlier, we don't see strings getting updated. So it's really interesting to see new strings come into the market so consistently with you guys. What is on the horizon? Can you share anything?
I think consumers have realized that we have updated our monofilament portfolio consistently over the past 3-4 years. And I think we are on a really, really good level. I think if somebody can't find a string in a head portfolio on the monofilament side, it's tough. Like it might be then really that very specific or a specific color I would understand. However, but like everyone should find themselves in a. But we have a very successful multifilament string, obviously with Velocity, picking up specifically also in the US.
Right.
And Reflex has not done as well as we thought it would do for us. Straight up honest here. So we are looking into new multifilament developments over the course of the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
So there is nothing right now coming out. There will be something maybe next year. And it just takes a little bit longer. It's a different process on developing it. You have like the filaments, you need to decide what construction you want to go for, which resin system compounds you're going to use, which consumer you are targeting. Those consumers are different in a sense from monofilament. So you need to really know what you're doing. So there is quite a bit in the pipeline and some unique projects too. Yeah.
Nice. And I have to ask you, you said you were out hitting. What's your current setup? What racket are you using and strings?
I was actually using, and because, as you know, like I'm also working on the racket side, so Gravity Tour right now, the new one is my go-to frame. Like the 1820 string pattern, like how like the impact feel, got the control, and obviously not only because of the look, but also of the playability, it's Hawk Power in there.
Oh, of course, obviously. And I should ask you, like, what's the magic sauce in Auxetic? Because it literally has made every head racket feel like more solid and even more better. Yeah. More better, that's good grammar. Yeah. Sorry.
I think a major priority in the racket development for us was to increase the feel, the feedback of the frame, and also the perceived stability of the frame. And I think that's where Oxatic 100% delivered on. And the way that material, or this type of construction works, is exactly delivering on that premise. So it was is a home run for us, and yeah, we are working on the second generation basically.
Let's talk a little bit. We did talk about the testing process, but even talk about the testing process. You send us prototype strings all the time. Did we test this before it was that petrol color? And did any of our feedback help with the Hawk Power?
Yes, you tested it. I think we did a visit with our development team. I think even end of 2019.
Yeah,
that's why you guys tested
it,
but you didn't know that you were testing
it.
What no, it was the petrol color, but it was a much lighter petrol color.
Yeah, like a clearish.
No, I don't remember. But you tested it, but I didn't tell you that you actually tested it. So
okay.
Because as you know, like sometimes when you talk too much about it, what to be expected, you set a mindset. You know you put up expectations 100%. Out there, and that's what you don't want.
It's easier with rackets because you can black them out, but with string, there's already a perceived.
Exactly. We got another player here next to us who is actually dropping off his head racket with some head strings.
That was good timing.
Yeah, some Lynx Tour and Hawk as a hybrid here with Lorenzo Musetti. So pretty cool as well. Good timing, perfect.
That wasn't on
It wasn't
purpose.
staged.
Yeah, we didn't
it
stage that. I wish.
So, watch Taylor Fritz walks in next.
Yeah, we are back to testing and
how did the testing and how does
it's obviously we have like a testing manager. Like he sets up specific kind of questionnaires where we ask for like rate the power to your current setup and all this. How does the string behave when you string it out? Like all those questions. That's the testing and that's the data basically. But and that we collect and we have to collect because it will tell you some sort of the truth. Nevertheless, like your gut feeling drives you as well. And if you, I'm in tennis. Oh my God, since 30 something years or so when I started, and in the industry like nearly 20 now. And you watch somebody play, you try to listen to the sound of the racket or of him or her hitting the ball. You try to look how the ball curves. You try to look how the opponent reacts to the ball that's coming. And then you start asking questions also like to opponents who are hitting against somebody who's testing a string. Mm-hmm. Like, do you feel that the ball that is coming feels different than before? Which sometimes they get confused because they're like, this person is testing the string, right? Yeah, I said like, but I want your feedback. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel something? And then you get some interesting comments and questions, or like partly even questions, comments, and like input. So it's interesting. It's always fun.
I'm just gonna go off of that and just go rogue for a second, and this is an interesting question. Do you think that there are pro players that are pretty like dialed in with what they like, but would do better if they changed their string setup?
Yes.
Okay, me too.
I 100% think so, yes.
I was joking with Chris yesterday that he should set up a shop, like literally right outside the practice courts, and then the players can come consult and talk about like what they actually want to get out of their equipment. Because I think a lot of players, and this is true, don't specifically know what their racket's doing for them, don't specifically know what their strings are doing for them, and they're using it because they've always used it, or they're using it because a coach told them to use it. But it's cool to hear feedback from players saying, hey, I switched to this racket, or I switched to these strings, or I switched to this hybrid because I was missing this, or I wanted this. But there seems to be like that.
Yeah, that's what you typically try to ask players, like, what are you missing? What are you expecting? What do you want? Obviously, there are two sides of the story. There's this very technical part where you can come with data. Like you have a player testing or hitting a racket with a string, and the data will tell it's faster or it's more spin.
Yeah.
But there is the other side, the perception of any player. And there is no wrong or right of perception, because I can't tell you what you feel when you hit a tennis ball. You will know.
Yeah.
And again, like for example, sound plays a big role. Like sometimes a certain level of sound, somebody believes that he just launched or she just launched a rocket, and it's just great hitting. And So it's very tough to debate because there are also different beliefs how to approach this,
I know.
and some coaches have that belief, the others these. What I'm partly missing sometimes is that a lot of things get mixed up, and they don't. There are people out there that are like relying on our expertise, and some they don't even listen. And
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, you need to stop to either try to convince certain people from certain things and just let them do their thing, you know.
I talked to a former player today who's coaching, and they will not switch rackets or strings, and it's just an interest. It's very like common with
Yeah.
many players,
Yeah.
and it's yeah.
And but what's interesting that the younger players then they that who say this, they don't listen to, let's say, the retired players. And I still have in mind when Pete Sampras was giving an interview, it's like, oh, if I would have switched rackets, maybe I would have played longer, or if I would have won more matches. I mean, it's easy to say afterwards,
Right.
obviously, but still, there's
Yeah.
like, if you talk to a lot of players after their career, they probably challenge themselves to like, yeah, maybe I should have.
Well, I think it's tough because the off season's so short, and they all try to do it then, and then it's like depending on how your strategy is, some try to change too many things,
Yeah.
some won't even try, and so it's such an. I love debating
But
this.
like
with
if you
players.
look, like sometimes we try to, or we compare, or the comparison is made between Formula One drivers.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys, they really know pretty much anything about their car. They work
Right.
with the engineers and stuff. And there are some of those tennis players out there, but they are pretty rare.
Yeah.
Like who really know about swing weight or balance, and like, oh no, my coach did it for me,
Yeah.
or like I let it do, or it just felt nice, so I stick with it, and stuff like that. you know.
Yes. It's very interesting. What else? Do we have anything else that we need to cover? Any more fun stories from the week?
Oh, from the week, yeah.
Or anything, you tell us.
I mean, what I would love to emphasize again is we are, as you say, in the stringing room, and
Yes.
it's like kids in the candy shop for all of us like that love tennis. And what I really want to emphasize is how good of a job these people are doing, not only here at the head stringing service, but overall those stringers. I mean, if anyone watches tennis right now on TV, these rackets have been gone through some stringers' hands, you know, and they made it work. They make the players play the game, and they are the unsung heroes, or how would you say properly in English? Like, not enough people are talking about what they do.
You
And
just talked about
that's-
Formula One. It's the pit crew.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
At least they get some visibility on TV
Yeah.
sometimes.
Wait, should we bring the
so-
Netflix
yeah.
crew into the?
Yes, we should. They should show these guys a little bit more. Yeah. So that's really something, and they are grinding here for like 12 to 16 hours every day for straight up 2 at Grand Slams 3 weeks, which is, you need to love what you do. You need to love to service tennis players, and yeah.
Well, and like, let's kind of paint the picture a little bit. It's not super glamorous in here. Like, you're not in.
Are you saying that
Oh,
the head
sorry.
stringing service is not looking great?
No, it looks amazing, but it's not like you're in the players' lounge.
Well, we probably are the only stringing service that has a couch in the welcome area.
I know
so, like,
you
I
do
don't
have
know.
some AC. It is quite nice, and they got like music, TV.
Yes.
However,
Yeah, no.
it's you're not like it's
Yeah,
not like
and-
you've got like the champagne
No,
coming.
no,
and-
no.
Yeah, so it's a grind. And what's like the average time these guys are turning a racket around in?
So we usually calculate like 30 minutes for
Okay.
like the racket being dropped off, strings get cut out, the racket gets cleaned, gets distributed to the stringers or assigned to the stringer. The stringer is doing his job. Then he drops it off in the center of the room where the logoing is happening. So yeah, so
Nice.
like we calculate like 30 minutes.
You guys are literally like the behind the scenes like of like a big rock band like setting up, but
Yes.
like you're the sound, all the things.
Yeah, definitely. Like, sorry, I was just looking at so many people coming in right now.
It's hard to
Like,
focus.
get distracted. Part of our social
We're
team
like,
just
"Oh,
came in
wow."
from head.
Oh, nice. Oh, see, the cameras
Yeah,
did come.
Yes. So
We saw
everything
it.
not staged, nothing is planned, but it's happening.
I love it. That's awesome. The timing's meant to be. Anything else to mention before we wrap this one up?
No, I think we pretty covered a lot.
Our
I
yearly
think.
podcast. We have to every year
Yes,
at this time.
that's like, it's becoming like a routine,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Right? Like here in Indian Wells.
Maybe-
so
yeah.
like, you're always invited. Your team is always invited to
Thanks.
come in here. I think we have planned something for tomorrow
Yes.
where people will be like hopefully curious to see what's coming out there.
I think so.
That's going to be
It
fun.
should be fun for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
And we always love connecting with you guys.
The
and
journey of a tennis racket.
It's quite the journey. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Michelle.
Dennis,
Thanks,
and
thank
thanks
you.
everyone for watching and listening. Let's make this like the top 5 podcast of 2023.
Yes,
that's
please.
the goal,
That would
right?
be cool. Yes.
Buy Hawk Power, try it out. Lots of pocketing,
Yeah.
beautiful color,
Yeah.
and then top 5 podcasts.
But if all this happens, I might be able to retire too early, right? Like, so.
Yes. Awesome.
All right,
Well,
thanks
happy
everyone.
hitting.
Thank you. Thanks.